In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Sunday morning. With us this morning is Tidal McCoy. Well, a West Pointer, a former Assistant Secretary of the Air Force, well, a patriot, and one common sense guy. Well, Tidal McCoy, you know, it's 40 years later. What makes you stay up at 3 o'clock in the morning now?
Well, John, thank you. It's good to be on with you and all your wonderful moderators and people that you bring Sunday morning as well as weekly to your show. And what's worrying me now is looking back at what happened, having served in Vietnam with my classmates, a number of who didn't come back, and looking back today, 51 years ago, in Vietnam, the order went out. I was sitting on the right hand of James Rodney Schlesinger, the Secretary of Defense, when the order went out to depart Vietnam, to withdraw, and it was finalized the next day. And as we evacuated and in effect lost that conflict because the South Vietnamese troops were not being supported. They were folding under North Vietnamese assault. And the reason they were is because the Democrats in Congress, particularly in the Senate, had begun restricting aid and the ability of U.S. air power to support the South Vietnamese forces that we had built up over 10 years with the loss of 58,000 American lives. And the Democrats had a scalp they were looking for, which was Richard Nixon and the Republicans, because he had beat them in 68 and 72. And so they thought if they could inflict a defeat on U.S. forces, in effect, in Vietnam, it would hurt the Republicans, and they could win, which they did in the midterms in 74 and in 1976. So what we lost when we pulled out of Vietnam was we lost our honor, we lost deterrence, we lost nations to communism, we lost millions of lives. They were killed by the communists in Cambodia and Vietnam. We left POWs behind, some that were left behind and lost. We left equipment, and we lost allies around the world. In fact, shortly thereafter, we lost Afghanistan to the Russians and Iran to the mullahs.
Ty, I was going to say that. Did President Biden read that book? Because of the fact that the same thing that happened in Afghanistan with President Biden.
Indeed. You know, we cut and ran when we didn't need to. We tried to have a deal that we could persuade people it was a deal that was made with some kind of honor. And then Biden, who apparently was not briefed well at all by his staff or anybody else while he was using the auto pen, all of a sudden even the withdrawal with a dishonorable stain on it collapsed in Afghanistan, and we had people killed, and we had a lot of our allies lost, and all of the Afghan forces that we had trained and were loyal to us, they were captured and killed, and they're still being killed. So these withdrawals without honor, without a plan in place, are very bad. And that brings us to this point. What do we do now as we look at the situation in Iran and we look at the situation in Ukraine?
Tidal McCoy, a few days ago, the German Prime Minister went after President Trump and said to him that the Iranians are making fools of us. And then the next day, President Trump says to him, well, maybe we should withdraw our weapons, our bases from Germany. I think he then apologized or something?
Well, I'm not sure. You know, the problem is that everybody gets used to these open tweets and get used to criticizing each other in public. A lot of this used to be done behind closed doors when leaders would have differences with each other over major policy things. They wouldn't be trying to fit into the 8-hour television, soundbite cycle. And as a result of that, it leads to a lot of frayed nerves. It leads to a lot of tension. It leads to very important alliances and national security interests that we have around the world that are kind of being torn apart, because we have to be careful now with these delicate relations we have with our allies.
Now, I just saw a graph the other day. I don't know if General Keane showed it to me or who. $900 billion the United States is spending defending NATO or Europe. And Germany of that only spends $98 billion or something like that. I mean, that's 10 to 1. I mean, we're saving their behind, and they don't appreciate us.
Well, yeah, starting with winning World War I and World War II for them, and then the Marshall Plan, if you count that in together with what we've done in NATO since 1947, it's probably 4 or 5 times any number that we can think of. And of course, the European Union, the NATO nations, have about 450 people. They have a GDP that's the same as ours or larger. They could have and should have been doing much more for a much longer period of time. And they took a free ride, and Americans let them get away with it, let them do that. And now, as President Trump has called on them to come around in his last term and this term and do their part, they're being very petty and very jealous and very insecure about it, because they know they have failed their own people, and they have failed to provide for the defense and the economy and the sovereignty of their borders, and they don't like having a finger pointed at them. And unfortunately, this has to be done among friends sometimes, and our friends are not taking it well, that's for sure.
Well, now, where do we go with Iran? I mean, President Trump is in a tough position, but I think I want to ask the German Prime Minister, I wanted to ask the King the other day who I was with. I mean, I think the King realizes that we don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. I mean, he gave a fantastic speech at the White House and at Congress. Well,
he did, and he's from a long line of leaders, sovereigns in England who have seen the United Kingdom with the United States and our European allies fight and win wars. And they did that by toughing it out, by hitting hard, as President Roosevelt and Winston Churchill did. And they made a decision that we are not going to go for a negotiated settlement with the Japanese and with Hitler. We're going for unconditional surrender. We're going to hit them. We're going to hit them hard. We're going to knock them out. And we're going to finish this. And if you don't finish something when you're fighting the bully in the schoolyard, the bully's just going to come back and keep picking on you, and you'll be laughed at. So we're in a situation now, by having this been let go for so many years, both in NATO and with the Iranians funding terror all throughout the world, that this has been going on so long now that the Iranians think they can get away with it and want to continue. And somebody's got to draw the line, and that has been President Trump. So I think now we have to make it clear. We have to finish the job that we started, and we have to hit them hard, and we have to take out whatever we have to over there to make it clear that American power, if it's challenged, it's going to come in, and it's going to clean the table, and it's going to take you out.
I agree 100%. Well, Ty McCoy, thank you for everything you've done for our country, and continue to speak out for our country. And let's catch up again real soon.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Sean. Good to be with you today.
Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Why is the middle class shrinking? Why are people facing an affordability crisis while marginalized individuals called informals grow in numbers? Join me as I travel the world, speaking with people living in invisibility, the leaders working to solve it, and uncovering the hard truths shaping our economy and daily reality.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.